The galactic assembly hall buzzed with a cacophony of alien voices, each species vying to be heard above the others. The Cretheon delegates, towering reptilian beings with scales that shimmered like oil on water, hissed their displeasure. The Vexari, insectoid creatures whose compound eyes reflected the chamber's harsh lighting, clicked their mandibles in rhythmic mockery. At the center of this cosmic theater stood humanity's newest submission for approval, the UHNS Prometheus, displayed as a holographic projection that rotated slowly above the assembly floor. Commander Orla Chen stood at the human delegation's platform, her jaw tight, hands clasped behind her back in a parade rest that betrayed none of the fury building in her chest. Beside her, Lieutenant Lewis Park monitored the data feeds, his fingers dancing across the haptic interface as he tracked every insult, every dismissive gesture from the assembled aliens. "This," bellowed Ambassador Krethtok, his forked tongue tasting the air with disdain. "This is what humanity offers as a warship? We have seen larger cargo vessels hauling waste from mining colonies." Laughter erupted across the chamber. The sound was alien and discordant. Hisses, chirps, subsonic rumbles that made the human delegates' bones ache. Orla's green eyes narrowed, but she remained silent. Lewis glanced at her, noting the slight twitch in her left eye that he'd learned to recognize over their 5 years serving together. She was calculating, waiting for the perfect moment. The Vexari representative, whose name was an ultrasonic frequency humans couldn't properly pronounce, activated its translation matrix. "The vessel possesses no plasma cannons, no quantum disruptors, no singularity mines. Its armor is laughably thin. Its reactor output is barely sufficient for atmospheric breaching. By what delusion do the humans believe this contraption deserves classification as a military vessel?" More laughter. The Draconids, massive beings whose homeworld boasted 3 times Earth's gravity, actually slapped their scaled thighs in amusement. Lewis leaned closer to Orla. "Commander, should we?" "Not yet," she whispered, her voice carrying the steel that had earned her command of humanity's first deep space military installation. "Let them finish." Ambassador Krethtok raised his clawed hand and the chamber quieted to a low murmur. "Humans, we appreciate your enthusiasm in joining the Galactic Defense Initiative. However, we cannot in good conscience allow such an inadequate vessel to bear the classification of warship. It would be an insult to the term. We suggest you return to your system and perhaps attempt to build something worthy of—" "May I speak?" Orla's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. The assembly fell silent. Not from respect, Lewis noted, but from the sheer novelty of a human interrupting a Cretheon ambassador. "By all means," Krethtok said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Enlighten us as to what we've overlooked about your creation." Orla stepped forward, her boots echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. "You're right about several things, Ambassador. The Prometheus has no plasma cannons. Its armor is relatively thin by your standards. Its reactor output is modest." Confused murmurs rippled through the assembly. Lewis smiled slightly. He knew what was coming. "However," Orla continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, "you've made one critical error in your assessment. You've evaluated the Prometheus as if it were meant to fight like your warships. It isn't." She gestured, and Lewis activated a secondary holographic display. The Prometheus rotated, and new data streams appeared alongside it. "Humanity spent 200 years fighting wars on a single planet. We learned something that you, with your vast empires and overwhelming firepower, seem to have forgotten." Orla paused, letting the tension build. "We learned that the most dangerous weapon isn't the one that destroys everything in its path. It's the one your enemy never sees coming." The Cretheon ambassador's tongue flickered uncertainly. "What are you—" "The Prometheus isn't a battleship," Orla interrupted. "It's a hunter. Every system, every design choice was made with one purpose: to be invisible, to be patient, and to strike where it hurts most." Lewis brought up a new set of specifications. "The inadequate reactor? It runs cold, producing almost no thermal signature. The thin armor? It's a revolutionary metamaterial that absorbs sensor sweeps across 17 different spectrums. The lack of conventional weapons, replaced with quantum-entangled torpedo systems that can deliver payloads from 2 light-years away, with 0 flight time." The assembly had gone completely silent now. Orla could feel the shift in the room, the sudden recalculation happening behind hundreds of alien eyes. You want to know what makes the Prometheus a warship? Orla asked softly, her voice somehow carrying more weight than when she'd been shouting. It's simple. In every wargame simulation we've run against your fleets, simulations you didn't know we were conducting, the Prometheus has achieved a 100% mission success rate. Not by fighting your way, by fighting ours. Ambassador Krethtalk's scales had lost their luster. You've been running simulations against our fleets? For the past 3 years, Lewis confirmed, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. Every tactical doctrine, every formation, every response pattern. We've studied you the way we once studied each other, and we learned how to win. Orla activated the final display. It showed a tactical breakdown of the Prometheus engaging a Krethion dreadnought fleet, the pride of the Galactic Defense Initiative. The simulation played out in accelerated time, the Prometheus, invisible and patient, maneuvering into position over the course of days. Then, in a span of 40 seconds, the entire fleet's command structure was eliminated by quantum torpedoes that appeared from nowhere, leaving the massive ships dead in space, crew intact but completely neutralized. We don't need to destroy you, Orla said quietly. We just need to make you stop. The silence that followed was profound. It wasn't the mocking quiet of before, but something heavier, more respectful, more wary. Finally, the Vexari representative spoke, its mandibles moving slowly. This changes you much. The classification of warship is approved. However, we must request full tactical documentation of these quantum torpedo systems and sensor absorption technologies for integration into the broader defense initiative. Orla smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It wasn't a friendly smile. Denied, she said simply. Humanity will share our technologies when we're convinced that the Galactic Defense Initiative views us as equals, not as amusing children playing with toys. Today was your first lesson in why underestimating us is a mistake. I suggest you learn it well. She nodded to Lewis, who closed down their displays. Together they turned and walked from the assembly hall, leaving behind a room full of aliens who had just realized that Earth's quiet, patient species might be the most dangerous thing to emerge from the galaxy in 1,000 years. As they reached the corridor outside, Lewis finally let out the laugh he'd been holding. Commander, that was necessary, Orla finished, though her own smile had softened. We needed to show them that humanity doesn't play by their rules.
We never have.
We never will. Think they'll respect us now? Orla considered the question as they walked toward their shuttle. Through the massive viewports, she could see the Prometheus itself, docked at the station's military wing. It looked small compared to the massive alien warship surrounding it, sleek and unassuming. Respect? She said finally. Maybe, but more importantly, they'll remember. And the next time humanity speaks, Lewis, they'll listen in silence. Behind them, through the still open assembly hall doors, not a single voice could be heard. The lesson, it seemed, had been learned,